Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you this
You
week?
know, I'm tired. For those of you not in my real life, this is the most exhausting part of my year at both jobs. So I'm just tired, but I'm well otherwise. We one of our writers is Alec Wilder, and so we did a celebrating the life and music of Alec Wilder at one of the churches over here last night. And it was really lovely, and a lot of his old friends like were there, and it was stuff that like Judy, who I used to work with that passed away, used to work on. So it was very nice. And because it is sci-fi month, I am really trying to deep dive into my aliens and conspiracies and
I love it. I love
all of the
it.
above. So I've been trying to watch X Files and I keep falling asleep, but I love it. It's just late and I'm tired.
That's
But
fair.
so I've only made it through like 4 episodes. But I love X Files and I'm trying to find a good X Files rewatch podcast because I was like,
Mm.
I think it'd be fun to like listen to since it's the first time I'm watching it all the way through.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, and I'm if you see me next time and I show up with a tinfoil hat, just ignore me. I'll be back to normal one day. We'll see.
One day.
Mhm.
Full disclosure for everyone, you already know this if you listen to the podcast, but Courtney is going on a very exciting vacation. And because of that, we are doing a marathon recording. So we recorded last Monday like normal. We're recording next Monday like normal, but we're also recording today on Saturday. So, I don't know how much I'm going to have to say about my life on Monday. So I'm trying to like figure out what I should save. But then also it's the weekend, so exciting things will happen because it's the weekend. So
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm also exhausted because this is every single person who's asked me how I am in the last 3 days. My response has been Halloween being on a Monday should be illegal. Like, end of statement.
Fair.
Um, there is no reason to have that much weird sugar energy in children for that many days in a row.
See, when they would have it like on a Monday or something when I was little, I don't know if they did the same thing in New York, but they would just move it to Saturday.
No, they don't do that. Halloween is Halloween.
See,
So we
they were like, nope, Saturday is when everything happens. Go knock on doors on Saturday.
so we had a primetime late night football game Sunday night,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which meant everybody was exhausted Monday morning, but then school is just a half day full of sugar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you go trick or treating. So then Tuesday's a freaking wash because everybody's ridiculously tired from the last 2 nights of not doing anything useful. Then Wednesday, um, we had Mass because it's All Souls Day. And we always have Mass on Wednesdays, but for some reason, literally, I was not the only one. I talked to like two other teachers, and not a single one of us finished any of our lessons on Wednesday. Like, it was just the weirdest day. Like, because we have shorter classes,
Mm-hmm.
everything was off. Like, everything was just off. But then Thursday, we all felt like we didn't have enough lessons. Like, it was just the whole week was weird.
It was just a
It was weird.
mess.
It was just a mess. But I'm also at the point where all of my classes either just finished and are about to turn in their projects or are finishing and about to be assigned the project for their first book for the year. And it has never worked out in my life where they've all been done at the same time. But somehow it worked out that they're all done at the same time. So I'm in a weird place because I'm not teaching anything because we're reviewing and getting ready for the final projects in all of my classes at once,
Nice.
which is great for lesson planning, but weird for the energy of my day.
So what are the books? Do you know what your next books are already?
I do. So fifth grade just finished Where the Red Fern Grows, and the next book we're reading is The Westing Game.
I haven't read that one.
It's a mystery.
I was gonna say, isn't it based off of like a true? Is that the one that's based off a true story? That's a mystery.
I don't think so. It's like a weird puzzle. I don't think it's based off anything real. And then sixth grade just finished Esperanza Rising, which is an amazing book. It's my favorite book to teach. And the next book they are doing is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie.
I still haven't read that book,
Oh my God.
which is wild because it's like right up my alley. I think I bought it. I
It's
think I own it. I just
Well,
haven't.
and the other thing is the Weston game, and Then There Were None. Last year when I taught them, I didn't have copies of the books. So I was
Mhm.
like giving the kids a chapter at a time because like as a PDF, like illegally, because the school ordered the books, but they never got there. So and then up at the beginning of this week, I was trying to plan for like next week and the week after before Halloween or before Thanksgiving. And I was like, I don't know what to do because like I still don't have my books. I walked in the office yesterday and there was a box of my books there. And I was like, Nate, these are my books. He goes, they still have to be labeled. I go, I don't care. Look at how beautiful they are. Because it was the Weston game, And Then There Were None, and The Bad Beginning, which were the three that I never got last year. And I was like, my books are here. Seventh grade just finished White Fang.
Oh,
And the next thing we're doing is our Edgar Allan Poe short story unit.
ooh.
And then eighth grade is like over this weekend, they finished reading Romeo and Juliet, and then we do The Diary of Anne Frank next.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So, you know.
That'll be devastating, but good.
Well, fifth grade specifically asked me because they were at The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind over the summer, and there was a dog that died in that one. And then in Where the Red Fern Grows, the whole book is about the dogs dying. And so they were like, "Is the next
The
book?"
girl dies, right?
That's Bridge to Terabithia.
Oh, that is. I mix up those titles all the time. But yeah, I've read them both.
I love that I didn't even question which book you were talking about. But they were like, is the next one gonna be sad? I was like, I don't read happy books, but no, this one is not as sad.
I'm so sorry. The world just ended outside and I couldn't hear anything you said. I don't know what's happening. I thought it was going to stop and it didn't ever stop.
Gosh.
So
No.
Sad.
And I told him that I don't believe in happy books, but that at least this one's less sad.
What's their next one?
The Weston game.
Okay, yeah.
It's a mystery, and it's not. So it's actually probably the least sad book that I teach because it's a mystery, but no one actually dies.
Excellent. Maybe I'll read it one day.
Spoilers.
Yeah, that's fine. I can go in not knowing people didn't die yet on that one. I feel like young adult mysteries, like you can't really kill people, especially like important people, or it's too much.
Well, no, but I mean, the mystery is of this guy's will. So the fact that no one's actually dead is a huge spoiler.
Well, you're a terrible person.
It's like a fifth grade book, Courtney.
Look, I don't care.
I don't know what the education system in Louisiana is like, but I read it in fifth grade, and now I teach it to my fifth graders.
I don't even remember fifth grade. Dude, I don't know what I read. I know what I didn't. I know what I didn't read, but I don't know. And if you told me titles, I could tell you if I read them.
That's fair.
We've read sad books too, though.
Yeah.
Sad books.
I mean, I just feel like
that may have been when I read Bridge to Terabithia.
Yeah. I feel like most books that you read in school are sad. Not because your teachers hate you, but because it's easier to feel sad than it is to relate to other people's joy. Like, because you can like be happy for people, but you don't have the same like guttural feeling as when you're sad for other people. At least that's my opinion on why all books are sad, or all good books are sad.
Maybe it's trying to like build empathy in kids at a young age.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
I mean, that's what my whole sixth grade curriculum, that's all it is. So Esperanza Rising is about is about Mexican immigrant workers in the 1930s in farms in California. And then There Were None is just a good book. And then we read
what happens in that one, because I'm gonna read that one.
No, I won't tell you, but it's a Agatha Christie. It's a murder mystery.
I know.
But that one's not really empathy. That's critical thinking skills. But then The Acorn People is a nonfiction book about a camp for kids with disabilities. And then we read Shooting Kabul, which is a book about an immigrant family from Afghanistan during 9/11. And then we read My Side of the Mountain, which is about a kid who runs away and lives by himself on a mountain. So like basically I'm just like, stop being a jerk. That's my if you had to title my class, like you know how in college English classes have like titles, my class title for sixth grade would be Stop Being a Jerk.
Well, that is all good and well. That is sad. And I'm sorry we're starting this podcast in a sad,
No, it's not
like,
really sad. We're
that's
teaching children to be better people.
which is great, but it makes
And
me sad. And
yeah,
I'm already all right. I don't think I need to read any sad books.
do you know what else we could do to become better people, though?
You know, I do know.
Okay,
I can give
you
you a
just
little spiritual affirmation. I happened
fantastic.
upon another card that I didn't realize I hadn't read before.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going back. Today, be a badass love beam today.
I love that.
Don't you? It was meant to be. It just like appeared out of nowhere. I think it was on my coffee cart and I just saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never read that before. So it was meant to be.
Don't you just love when like things appear as you need them?
I do. I do. Makes my life easier.
Which actually, things appearing as you need them is why I'm so excited to talk about this episode of Stargate today. Because as you should be aware, most of people who listen to our podcast are not complete imbeciles.
I'd like to believe that.
November is Native American Heritage Month. And on Tuesday at my school, we had some people come in and teach the kids like traditional tribal dances and like talk about Native American culture and like why it's important and like what like and all this stuff. And it's funny because the people who came in, the Native Americans who came in were two of my students, aunt and uncle. And like he looked out the window, he goes, "Why is my mom here?" And he goes, "And Aunt Susie's here, and Uncle Jordan's here. Is this whole Native American thing about my family?" I was like, "Nikki, there are 4 Native American students in our school, and it is you and 3 of your cousins. So, yes, that is what happened."
Bless her heart. Also, sorry for pushing our sci-fi agenda in her Heritage Month.
No, it's fine. It's also Sci-Fi Month. We can celebrate multiple things at once.
It is. I have been hardcore on the Sci-Fi Month.
You
I also
have.
would like to acknowledge that I am here for Native American Month as well.
But so this episode of Stargate is a perfect blend of sci-fi and Native American heritage. And I was like, and this is not the first Stargate episode that we'll publish in November, but it's the first Stargate episode we're recording in November. And I was like, the timing.
And it wasn't, I didn't find it offensive. I don't think it was.
No, I don't think it was at all. In fact, I actually took a bunch of notes after I finished watching the episode to make sure that it wasn't.
Great.
Yes.
I didn't do research, but while I was watching, I was like, man, I'm so used to Native American episodes being offensive that this was like a breath of fresh air because it really
was. Yeah, it was. Well, and I'll talk about that. So, okay. Today's episode of Stargate SG-1, Season 2, Episode 13, Spirits. It was rated 7.2 stars, and it came out on October 23rd, 1998.
Right, so I thought it was about Halloween ghosts.
Which would have been interesting, but it was not.
Would have been right for the time, October 23rd.
It would have.
Called Spirits. Very much not what this episode's about.
Correct. The number one song, okay, this is weird. No, it's weird because so last week the number one song was The First Time by Monica.
Mm-hmm.
And then next week that will be the number one song again. But this week, for 1 week, the number one song was 1 Week by the Bare Naked Ladies.
Look, they have good timing. They know what it's about.
I was like, hey, the fact that it was literally only for 1 week and then it fell back down, I was like, you know what? Iconic.
Meant to
Iconic.
be.
Meant to
I love that. I bet they planned that somehow. They're like, excuse me, Monica, can we just have this 1 week of October? And then we'll give it back to you. I promise.
I promise. The number one movie was Practical Magic.
Ooh, of course it was.
And the number one book was Bag of Bones by Stephen King.
Ooh.
So like very spooky. very spooky week. Things that happened this week, less spooky on this one. It was the day that Britney Spears released Baby One More Time.
Ooh.
And then this one is spooky, but not in a cute Halloween spooky. It's kind of just like spooky because history sucks and the fact that we're still living
Every
like
day is a surprise.
every day for what 24 years later, this is still a problem. Apologize. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Chairman Arafat signed a peace treaty between Israel and Palestine on this day in 1998. And
Great.
welcome to 2022, where there is still nothing but war in the Middle East, particularly between Palestine and Israel.
Right. That's nice of them. They tried, I guess.
And that is all I will say on that matter because
Great.
the episode was directed by Martin Wood. Welcome back, my friend. My friend, I don't know that man.
Is our best friend.
Yeah. It was written by Tor Alexandra Valenza,
New
writer, who has only 3 writing credits ever.
Ever?
Yeah.
Okay.
The show The Dead Zone, Dharma and Greg.
Oh my gosh.
And 6 episodes of Stargate.
Oh my favorite.
Right. I love Dharma and Greg.
I haven't seen The Dead Zone, but I'm like 95% sure I would love it.
Yeah.
I love Dharma and Greg.
Right. He has a twin sister. Love twins. That's a thing I have now, apparently. And she is a voice actor who's worked in like Star Wars cartoons, Marvel cartoons, and like a ton of video games. So like you for sure heard her voice. Right. But nothing that she was ever in with where her face was in it was anything that I have ever heard of or seen. So I still don't actually know what they look like. But they're twins.
Excellent.
Our guest star is Rodney Arnold Grant, who played Tanane. He is best known for Dances with Wolves, Ghosts of Mars, and Wild Wild West. He is a Native American actor from the Omaha tribe who grew up on the Omaha Reservation in Nebraska. Dances with Wolves was one of his first big roles, and he almost got cut from the movie because the Lakota language is so different from the Omaha language that he almost couldn't learn it well enough to like be in the movie.
I think that must be what I saw him in because I was like, he looks really familiar, but I haven't seen the other 2 things. So,
my favorite fact that I learned is something that just like gives me faith that maybe one day the world will not be as superficial as it was, because when you look at Rodney Grant, he's a very handsome man, but he doesn't look like like a Hollywood thirst trapped kind of human.
Right.
But in 1991, he was one of People's 50 Most Beautiful People.
Well, I mean, he is a beautiful person.
Yeah. And I was like, why doesn't People magazine post things like make things like that? Like, why aren't the 50 most beautiful people like genuinely beautiful humans,
right?
And not
made up people,
like, and not people who are made out of plastic.
Right.
So I love that. Also, he hasn't done any acting in over 10 years because he decided to quit Hollywood to focus on his family and community service in underfunded Native American communities.
That's nice of him. I love him.
Right. I'm obsessed with him. But also, speaking of knowing you recognize someone, there was one scene later. I didn't talk about all of the Native American actors in this episode, but all of the Native American characters in this episode were actually played by Native American actors, which is 10 out of 10 because Kolchak did that. Not. But so in this in the scene where they're talking to all the tribal elders, like and they talk to the chief of the tribe, I literally paused it and I go, I know that man. That man was in Smoke Signals. So then I pull him up and he was in fact in Smoke Signals.
I haven't seen that.
Smoke Signals is mine and Brianna's favorite movie.
Really?
It is based off of the short story by Alexi Sherman called This Is What It Means to Say Phoenix, Arizona. And I teach that short story to my eighth graders because I absolutely love that story. And I love him. And Sherman Alexie is an amazing Native American author who was actually ostracized a lot by Native American communities and was, especially when he was young, called an apple because he was red on the outside and white on the inside. He was like because he chose to leave the reservation to go to public school off of the reservation to get a better education. And he writes a lot about both the prejudice of white Americans to Native Americans, but also the prejudice within reservations about assimilation and what being Native means in a modern society, and like the whole idea of how to balance being true to your roots without like not living in today's society, and like the racism that exists and the alcoholism that exists and just within the Native American communities.
I feel like I've heard of him.
Probably.
I don't know that short story though, but I feel like I've heard of him.
The novel that I use to teach of his is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian.
I think I've heard of that one. I've not read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So love. And so yeah, but I get it because I literally go, I know that man. But of course, I have seen Smoke Signals so many times. I own 3 movies on Google, like where you can buy them to play them on YouTube. I like have paid for 3 movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
One is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Good one.
One is, oh God, it's another one that I use to teach. What books do I teach these children? I don't know.
What is my job?
What is my job? No, I don't remember. It's definitely one that I've taught. And I mean, to be fair, I guess they're all ones that I've taught because the third one is in fact, no, you know what? No. I'm looking at my YouTube account right now. No. How do I look at the movies that I own on Google?
I don't know. I don't own any movies on Google. I am so sorry.
Oh, it would help if I had Play Movies downloaded on my phone. I don't. But no, I know there's a way. Oh, My Movies and Shows. Oh, The Outsiders, duh. The three movies that I've paid for. To Kill a Mockingbird, The Outsiders, and Smoke Signals.
Nice.
Smoke Signals also came out in 1998.
Oh,
so
this was like prime time for him.
Yeah. So that is this. Should I talk about my information about the Native Americans now or after?
You can do it now.
Okay. So the Native American tribe that is featured in this episode is the Salish people. And the Salish people, I think one of the reasons why they were actually done so well in this episode is because their native, like indigenous lands that they lived on before mixed communities was the northern Washington, Vancouver, British Columbia area. So there were probably experts in that area that were able to help. And also any of the Native American art that they used, they would have been able to have actual legitimate art in that area of Vancouver that they've used to film without it being like presentational.
Right.
I'm talking so much.
You are, but it's fascinating. It's meant to be for you to talk so much. I think it's good to start out and do this before the episode because then when we're going through the episode, it'll make more sense to people, and
Yeah, I'm just sick, so I'm choking as I'm talking so much.
I wish I could be more helpful. I do not know enough about this particular tribe to give any information aside from the fact that I have heard of them. That is
Um,
my knowledge about them.
it's one of those things where like the actual tribe names, there's a lot of different ones, and then Salish is just kind of an umbrella term. So sorry, guys. Um, they um but the Salish languages are the languages that those tribes speak. So that's where the name comes from.
Got it.
Um, they are unfortunately, because of where they are in the Pacific Northwest and the Canadian and Lower Canada, they are one of the tribes that um was forced into schools um in Canada. What are the names of those schools? I hate residential schools
Yeah.
in Canada where so the Salish language is not very widely spoken anymore because
So,
it was cut out.
right, were these the schools that I'm sorry, were these the schools that we just recently learned about that all the
Mhm.
Native Americans were like buried under? Okay.
Yes,
Wonderful.
yeah, the residential schools. And one of the things that I will say, and we talked about this when we talked about the last Native American episode, is that the focus on what happened in Canada obviously is awful, but and it doesn't say that it doesn't mean that what happened in America was better or worse
Right.
or but
We
the
just learned
Salish,
about it more recently.
yes, the Salish people based on location in Western Canada were one of the tribes that was the most heavily affected by loss of language and culture due to residential schools. Um, the cloak that Tanane wears in the episode is one of the is a weaving cloak that is probably the type of art from the Salish tribe that is the most common and seen everywhere. Um, um, and those totem poles that they use, each one will have like Daniel was saying that they tell stories.
Mhm.
Each like family will have a totem pole that the top of it is whatever animal is like their family crest, their like symbol, and that's where the different spirits come from and how they have all those birds. And like Zales was the raven that protected that section of the tribe. And like I said, they're the Salish peoples, there's actually more than like 50 different tribes that make up the Salish peoples. Um, because it's a language group and unfortunately because of the loss of a lot of those languages, there's a lot of those tribes that there aren't a ton of peoples left that are connected to their ancestry, but there are like I said, a ton. One of the bands of Indians within the Salish peoples are the Musqueams. And the only reason I bring that up, because I'm not obviously going to talk about all 50 different bands, but they're one of the contemporary artists that is celebrated in the Salish peoples is a Musqueam artist named Susan Point, and she actually has created all of the welcome art in the Vancouver airport.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
Have you been
so
there?
I have not, but I when I was researching, she was the one that I saw came up, and like the weaving is a huge. There's another contemporary artist who is in the Museum of Anthropology for her weaving, for the Salish weaving.
Mhm.
And those, so their carving and their weaving are like their big art that continues into today.
Oh,
And so that's why like those buildings that they had in the episode and the totem poles and all the carpet poncho things that they're where all the characters are wearing are all actual traditional Salish.
I love that.
art. And so I loved because I really loved that this episode was like respectful and accurate
Yes.
about, which of course they have been so far in all of the other cultures
Mhm.
that they've talked about. And like anthropology is a huge part of Stargate and why it's so
Right.
fascinating. But because we have seen so often Native American cultures get horribly misrepresented
Mhm.
in film, it is
I mean,
beautiful.
even recently, I went and saw The Minutes, which was oh my God, I can't remember the writer, very famous writer, on Broadway, and
Oh, yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
had a really bad representation of Indians, and I think it was meant to be satire, but the way it came off was not well done. I mean, the whole play was
Well,
not well done, but I'm like, we're in 2022, and if they can make this respectful and they can make it to where like they're actually like admiring the tribes and learning about them, it's not
mhm.
just badly
Yeah.
representing them. Like
Yeah.
24 years later, we should be able to, and we
Hmm.
didn't happen. So I was very pleased to see this because even now it's pretty
It
common.
is. Well, and I mean, because I live in an area that, I mean, not that there's no area in America that didn't really have Native people in it, but I live in an area where the natives are very, like I live 5 minutes away from a reservation. There are a lot of Native American people near me, and it's the Haudenosaunee, which is a native word for the people of the Longhouse, which is the 6 different tribes that are in this area. Um, and so like, but like within the Haudenosaunee, there's 6 different tribes. So like different headdresses mean you're from a different tribe, and there's all kinds of things. And like, one of the things that I found really like minor and not even addressed in the episode, but like so accurate, is that never once does Tanane question that Sam is in charge.
Right.
That's not even a question. He doesn't talk to anybody else but her because Native American tribes are matrilineal.
Yep.
And so like it wasn't the woman is, and tribe elders are usually men, but those men will go to their wives or mothers for advice. Like,
Right.
and so her being the one to introduce all of the people and say that she was in charge, there was not a question that that's who they should be talking to. The elders don't talk to Daniel, they talk to Sam. And like that's so small and not even talked about in the episode, but so well done. And it's like little things that I was like they don't even realize how. I don't think they did it on purpose either. Like I don't think it was a like let's make sure that we follow. They were just being true to those people, and that's why I
Mhm.
loved it so much.
I did notice that, and I thought that that was one of the first things I noticed that I was like, this is really well done. I was like, this is
Mhm.
not. I like that that there was no, and even aside from like it just being a Native American culture, like the fact that they were like a woman's in charge and didn't make a big deal out of it either. I loved across the board how they portrayed that scene. I thought it was
Mhm.
really well done.
Yeah. No, it was the story was not like, I mean, I will talk about it, but the story itself was good. It wasn't
It was fine,
phenomenal. It
right?
was fine. I mean, the episode was only rated 7.2 stars. And I don't think that that's an unfair rating. The reason I loved it so much was purely because I was like, to have such a respectful and accurate portrayal of Native Americans 25 years ago, when today in 2022, we are still struggling to have different tribes represented well.
Yeah.
And because there's this kind of like Native American culture, like umbrella, and that's not true. Like I mean, there are things that are true to all Native American cultures, but
Right.
like the Adobe people of Arizona have almost as little in common with the Haudenosaunee people of upstate New York as I do. Like,
Right. Yeah. I
and
mean, it's the
so,
same thing we're talking about in music. They do the same thing with, especially like right now, it's like a hot button topic in music. They do the same thing with Latin music. They're just like, here's your Latin music. And it's like, well, where did it come from? And they're like, it's Latin. And it's like, these are very different things. Like, I'm looking at Latin music artists and I'm like, this person's from Brazil, this person's from the US. I'm like, these are very different styles and very
well,
different people.
and
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 it's like,
I And I've always gotten angry about that when it comes to cultures of Southeast Asia because
Mhm.
like they're just like it's Southeast Asian and I'm like okay but the people like there are similarities sure but Thai culture and Filipino culture are
Very different.
vastly different. And so I think it's just seeing someone accurately be like these are a peoples and this is what they do was refreshing.
Right. Yeah. I won't pretend to know everything about it because I very much
Oh,
don't, but
no.
I am very glad that, and I'm glad that the conversations are being had also about the Asian cultures and the Latin cultures
Hmm.
expanded. Um, um, but I mean, if we could do it then, why is it 24 years later and we're still doing it? You know,
Right. And no, and I think
Tracy
that
Letman wrote the minutes. Tracy,
oh yeah, it was Tracy Letts, Tracy Letman. No, you're that sounds right. I'm trying to
I know it's really bothering me that I can't
it's
remember
bothering me that yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
name.
I remember when it was on Broadway. Tracy Letts, yes. Tracy
Yes,
Letts.
yeah. And like they've written a lot of other stuff that I haven't seen, so I don't know how it is. But this was the
Right.
first thing I'd seen. It's such a big name, and that show felt so hard. And I, aside from it not being well written, directed, the like the misuse of cultures wasn't great either. So
Right. No, and it's one of those things where like the best thing you can do is to admit what you don't that you don't know.
right,
Like I have more of an understanding in the minute differences between Thai culture and Cambodian culture because I lived there and I've been there
right,
than you would. I don't pretend to know what the subtle differences between Venezuelan music and Brazilian music is. I wouldn't know. I
yeah,
don't pretend to know. I accept that there is a difference. I know a lot about the Native American tribes that I have constant contact with
right,
and I know that there are differences, but I had like I said I did research to make sure that this was correct. Literally, I finished watching the episode and the next thing I did was Google the Salish peoples because I wanted to make sure I thought it seemed respectful watching it. I didn't feel like it was
mm-hmm.
um presentational or appropriated at all, but I don't know. So I then went and looked it up and made sure that what I had seen matched what I was reading about what the people felt because I don't know.
Right,
And I think too many times the idea of like what we do is we don't want to seem rude, so we just say things. And like ignorance is less rude, I think, than well, ignorance in the sense of genuinely not knowing is not as bad as ignorance in the sense of saying things that you don't know.
right, right. And if you say it and you know you're ignorant, you know, like you haven't like I know a lot of times I'll be like, it's this straight up. And then I'm like, I have no idea, I haven't done research, but this is what I feel it is. Like, you know, but
Right,
like
but
and I don't
but
avoid the research, it's in the moment. Like if I had the time, I would do the research, you know, like
right.
it's not that I don't want to know.
But it's also like
And
we have a podcast where we like talk shit because that's what we
absolutely.
do.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we might say things that are completely unfounded and ridiculous, but like we also preface that we're saying things that we know are unfounded and ridiculous. I would
Yes.
never go into a conversation with like someone of one of the tribes of the Salish peoples and pretend that I knew jack shit about their culture.
Right. Right.
Like and I think that that is you see too many people speaking for other cultures.
Yep.
That is the number one criticism I have with quote unquote woke culture. I have no problem with being aware and learning and
Mm-hmm.
I love lifelong learners. I love the idea that we're never going to know everything and that we always have to be open to conversations. But
Absolutely.
I will never speak for a people that I haven't been gifted permission to speak for.
Right. Yes. I very much agree with that. I know we see a lot of things on opposite sides of the coin, but that one I 100% agree with you about.
Yeah. No,
We,
and I have very strong opinions, but I also, as an educator, will never walk into a conversation pretending that there's not something I can learn from it, even if it doesn't go with what I believe.
right, right. You're always open to learning. I think that's how everyone should be. Everyone should just be open to learning about new things all the time. I am. I
Yes.
love fun facts. I love learning things.
I love fun facts.
They're my favorite.
Like the most fun fact ever for me is the fact that Macbeth was actually written about the Guy Fawkes plot.
The what?
The Guy Fawkes plot.
Oh, yes. All of that sounded like one word. And
But today in recording is the 5th of November, and I am going to a Guy Fawkes bonfire party tonight. And I am very excited to drink alcohol and tell everyone everything about Macbeth.
I can't wait. I wish I was there.
On Monday, I will tell you all about it.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
But now to tell you all about why we're actually here today.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, this is going to be a long episode, but it's fine because, like, it's beautiful learning Happy Native American Heritage Month.
And we want to give props where it's due. Like, we're here to, take apart these episodes and learn about them. But also, like, when they really know something, we want to make sure that we talk about that too. Like,
yeah. So, SG1 starts off at SGC with Hammond, and they're learning about trinium, which is this fancy metal that was discovered on another. I was too busy researching the Salish people to look that up at all, but my guess is no.
Okay.
Because if it was and they knew enough about it in the 90s to make this episode, everything we have would be made out of it by now.
Fair.
It was discovered on this planet, and it is supposed to be both lighter and stronger than steel. But they were mining it, and it was in ore form. It is too brittle, and so they were trying to figure out what it was, like what made it able to be used.
It makes me think of what is it that Captain America's shield is made out of?
Oh, vibranium.
Yeah, it makes me think of vibranium.
Perfect. I mean, honestly, it's pretty similar, like in terms of how it is used in this show.
Right.
So SG-11 is off on a mining mission to get this, and they are now 48 hours overdue for check-in. So SG-1 is going to go find out why.
Have I asked you how many SG teams there are, or do we know?
We don't know. I don't know. There's at least 11. 11 is the biggest number we've heard so far. Like far in the show, it's always been like 1, 3, or 5.
Right.
Or 2. The only reason I know that for a while I was like, maybe there's just only odd numbers because we talk about 1, 3, and 5 all the time. But there is an SG2 for sure. So there are even numbers. So there's at least 11 teams.
Wasn't Kowalski meant to lead SG2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's at least 11 teams. The thing that's confusing to me is SG1 is 4 people. SG11 was like 16.
Right, yes.
So I'm not really sure what the different teams consist of. I don't like, is it like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we just keep getting bigger as the number gets bigger? Like, I don't.
That's a lot. Maybe it's like SG11 is meant to go do like the work to bring stuff back, whereas SG1 is meant to go like build relations.
Right. And like it's Colonel Makepeace is 3, right? Or is he 5?
5, 3. He's 3.
He's 3. So SG3 is clearly much more military.
Right.
So it's probably like SG1 is diplomatic, fact-finding, anthropology, like brain work. So they only have the 4 of them. And obviously they do military stuff too because it's the military. But like Teal'c and Daniel are kind of the more important pieces of that.
Yes.
Whereas like SG5 is all military. SG11 is clearly like operational.
And SG2 are the teddy bears.
Kowalski. They're talking about what to do to rescue SG11, and Hammond says that the UAV found no indigenous people on the planet. And Jack brings up a fact that you and I have mentioned quite a few times, and that is that planets are big.
Yeah.
When he said, but it's kind of a big planet, I go, thank God we finally addressed the fact that all life does not have to be in a circle around the gate. Because the number of times that you and I have been like, but what if like you landed in the middle of the Gobi Desert? Would you then assume that there were people on Earth?
Right.
So, Hammond's like, you're not wrong.
Right.
But there's no immediate threat. Okay. Then, as they're addressing this, the gate opens and SG-11's tag comes through. Only it's not SG-11. An arrow just shoots through the gate into the window and right through Jack's arm.
And it's just like we talked about last week. He's always the one getting injured and put out. Like,
Always.
always.
Literally, I was like, oh, here's another episode where Jack's not even in the episode.
Right. I laughed when I saw that because I was like, he's going to be so mad.
And I just love that, like, everyone was like, Hammond's like, is everyone okay? And Jack's just like, no.
Not really.
Nope, not okay. And then, of course, that's where the credits go because Jack is shot, because why wouldn't they be?
Right.
Right there.
Even though I did not feel any concern of life.
No, I didn't feel any concern of life. I just felt annoyed.
I know. I know.
Well, no, when the arrow first came through the window, I felt concern of life because I knew it hit him, but then he rolled over and it was just in his arm, and I was like, oh, okay.
I saw it hit his arm when it came all the way through.
So yeah, I thought it hit like right in more
It looked
close.
like it like grazed him almost. And like, so.
Yeah. So then the rest of the team is still going to go on the mission, but Jack can't because he is in recovery from removing an arrow from his arm. And Sam's going to lead the mission, which is great for Sam. We love to see a woman in control. Also, we love to see Jack making jokes about the fact that aliens like to poke holes in him.
Yes. I would like to ask a question that you may or may not can answer due to we are in the second season.
Okay.
Is this setting us up to make Sam more of the leader of the four?
I cannot answer that question. You are correct.
Okay. Well, that is a theory of mine based on how it is being shot. I would like to state that now.
Okay. They discover that the arrow that shot him was pure trinium, but it was of Native North American design.
Is it trinium? I thought it was trivium.
No, there's definitely not a V in that word.
There's definitely not. That's not a V on my. Okay.
Okay.
I can't read
yeah.
Hannah.
I was like, I didn't know. I didn't know if I was saying it wrong, if it was trinium or turinium, but there's definitely not a V.
Oh, I think it's trinium then.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, is tri.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I don't remember because I was reading the subtitles, but also I watched part of this while I was at work at school and part of it while I was at work at Shays. So like dialogue might have slipped a little bit.
Right.
Plot, I got it, but dialogue,
yeah.
When you're relying on subtitles, not always correct. So then, of course, because why wouldn't the U.S. government say some dumb shit? The Pentagon just doesn't want to lose the trinium, so the team is going to find SG-3, but also really they're going to negotiate a treaty with the indigenous peoples. What? Did I say 3?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's
normally 3. This time it's 11. So they're going to find SG-11, but they're really truthfully going to negotiate a treaty with the indigenous people. And I think Jack's dialogue makes me feel like Richard Dean Anderson had a personal like vendetta about the U.S. government's treatment of indigenous peoples, because the things that he says in this episode are like cutting. He was like, you mean the U.S. government started on the wrong foot and now they have to backtrack and figure their shit out so that we don't lose a resource because we fucked people over? Couldn't be.
I feel like Richard Dean Anderson has a lot of vendettas. U.S. government.
Richard Dean Anderson's feelings about the U.S. government are so clear in Stargate.
They did not hide it.
Nope. And I don't disagree with him 90% of the time.
Right.
So there's that. Then, so they go to this planet, which the one thing I dislike about Stargate is that they don't have names for most of the planets. Like they're like P3X 574.
Right.
I don't remember that shit, and I forget to write it down every time. So I have no idea what planets they're going to. I'll be like the planet with those people, because they always have names for the people.
Right.
Why can't they just name the planet? And
but
like, and they
not
sometimes they do like Abydos has a name and Chulak has a name. Um, and the one that Thor lives on that has a name that I always forget. But like some of them have names. And granted, they name the planets that they go to multiple times or that they
right.
have a relationship with the people. I get it. They're not going to name every freaking planet they like go and look at a rock on. But like for my sake, name it.
It makes me think of is it PX90? Is that the workout stuff?
Yes. Yes, that's
That's what I
it.
think of every time they name a planet number. I'm like, it's the exercise planet now. That's all it is.
Beautiful. I love it. Um, so Teal goes to the blast site to see what happens while Sam and Daniel go to the camp and they find it deserted, but like deserted in a weird way where everything just kind of like stopped and like the coffee pot was never turned on and like boiled itself, turned off and like boiled itself dry. The computer's like quite literally in the middle of typing a sentence. Like and so the signs of life from camp and like Teal'c is talking about footsteps and everything, and it doesn't seem like anyone ran away. It seems like they quite literally disappeared into thin air.
Yep, sure does.
Um, so they hear a noise, but there's nothing outside except for like a wolf, and at first they don't even see the wolf. And so they're like, what is happening? So they're searching for everything and they find a totem pole. And the totem pole, Daniel explains that it is a clan crest, explaining how they came to the planet. They were captured by Jaffa, but they're now protected by Zales, who is a benevolent raven spirit. And all of this is like, I really, really loved that they like took this actual Salish art and like those the faces and the shapes of the people. I looked up some Salish like clan crests and those are accurate, but then they just put the Jaffa symbol like in the
Mhm.
forehead to like, and I was like, I appreciated that.
Yeah.
So then Teal'c hears the wolf again and he's confused. So while they're looking for the wolf, the team gets shot by darts.
Hmm.
And as they're about to pass out from the drugs, Sam sees the native people approaching.
I also like to point out, Tilk is talking about all of these things and he doesn't and know what's going on. And then he's like, they said something about could it be ghosts? And he's like, the Jaffa don't believe in ghosts. And I'm like, hold up.
Oh, yes.
You have worms living inside of you that control your body. You have
Yes.
met 6 different types of people that do different things. Ghost is what you don't believe in out of
Yes.
all of these things.
Yes.
I was, I would
Um,
like to have a conversation.
Listen, there are people on planet Earth that still think like that. Because let me tell you, sorry, back to the books that I'm teaching, Where the Red Fern Grows. At the end of Where the Red Fern Grows, the title comes from a Native American myth of how red ferns grow. The book explains that the title comes from this myth and it explains what the legend of the red fern is. And it says that in the legend, the red fern is planted by an angel dropping seeds to protect these two things that have died. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's animal. That's why I said things.
Right.
But um and one of my students just like raised their hand to ask a question and I was like, yeah, what's up? And then he like went on this whole tirade about how angels don't do that. And if you're seeing spirits and you're feeling things and there's something being planted, it's actually demons. And like demons are all around you trying to trick you. And like aggressive, like evangelical, screamy, like anti-spirit talk in the middle of my class. And I was just like, so what a legend is that that's not actually what had happened.
So I'm raised in the Catholic Church, fire and brimstone child.
Right, right. And so then I explained legends, and then I explained how like legends always actually have something that is true.
Yeah.
And so I explained like soil makeup and what happens when people decompose and how different nutrients grow different plants, and the red fern needs this level of nutrients, so that's why it grows best when things die. And all the kids were like, oh, that makes sense. And I was like, sometimes legends are just science and not demons.
I was about to tell you, why didn't you just tell them about urban legends? And I was like, oh, they're children.
Yes,
That's why you didn't tell them about urban legends.
I didn't tell them about urban legends because they're in fifth grade.
Right.
and they cry when dogs die in books.
Right. I cry when dogs die in books.
In the middle of class?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't been to class in a while. There's no telling what I'd do now. But this is why this is how clearly it is that I don't work with children, because my first reaction was to tell them urban legends. And that's not good. I don't recommend.
Not good, no. I would also not recommend. My question about that scene though was, how does Teal'c know what a wolf is? Like, does
They
he
had this
just
little dog. They had the little dog, and he probably just thought it was like,
Mm,
remember? Because every child deserves to have a dog.
That's true. That's true. I just think that like when they're not on missions, he's just reading like encyclopedias to
Oh,
learn about
I
Earth.
absolutely think that. I mean, he was watching the TV shows to learn stuff about the
That's
news.
true.
And like, he definitely
I
is.
would love to see the notes that Teal'c takes in the margins of his encyclopedia that he's learning about Earth with.
Oh, how fun would that be? Can we make
Right? Oh my God.
I'm gonna
Yes.
start coming up with Tilkisms for every episode. That
Like
may or may not
that's
happen.
it. That's
I
like
would
no,
love
like
to do
you know
that.
how like people make like unofficial guidebooks and it's like
Yes.
fan fiction, but it's like it's an unofficial guidebook. Like there's like Doctor Who books that it's like
Mhm.
A to Z guide of monsters of Doctor Who. We're making Teal'c's encyclopedia notes. That's what we're
Ugh,
doing.
yes. I actually want to do that. I cannot guarantee that will happen, but
No, but
very
like I would
fun.
love to see like the entry on like Hitler and he just says, "Why? I do not
I
Actually, I think
you
he would
know,
understand Hitler, like
I would
not in a way that he like would
in a
feel good about it,
military
but he
way
would
though.
understand it because of the Jaffa, like or because of the Goa'uld, like that concept of just like Hitler's theory about humans and the Goa'uld theory about humans is kind of the same. In
I
it,
have a new rule. I want you to tell me like three things you want to know from Tilk's perspective, and I'll just come up with something and tell you the next episode.
okay. I will think about it and tell you at the end because
That's fine.
I still have 6 pages of notes.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And you don't even have to tell me on air.
Okay, perfect.
Be prepared.
Um, So the team is taken to a traditional village, and they're locked in this like building. And Sam tries to leave, but they're being held, and then native people won't let them out. So she assumes that that means that SG-11 is also prisoners.
Right. Which is like fair to assume.
Yeah. They're examining the prison that they're in and discern that everything is made out of tritium, and they're wondering how everything can be made with no signs of manufacturing. Because, like, Teal'c's like, if you were taking raw ore and making it into something, there would have to be some kind of factory, and I see no factory. And also, Sam's like, yeah, and also, like, the ore that we have crushed in your hands. So, how did they make an entire building with it? And also, Daniel is just having like an anthropology orgasm about the fact that like these people have advanced technologically enough to make everything out of tritium, but lost none of their like native culture,
Yes.
which I also think is dope, but like
It
not
is.
quite as obsessed with it as Daniel.
I mean, look, Daniel took things to another level. So
That's true. So then one of the so as they're like trying to figure it out, they're like, I wonder how far we are at from the mining site. And one of the natives walks in the room and just says, "Oh, just a few days walk." And then there's like a weird cut to black that I did not understand because it's the only time in this episode that there's a weird cut like that.
it is. I was like,
Because
maybe
because
like meant to have a commercial there.
right. Well, and last week the commercial breaks were all awkward,
Right.
but like this one was the only one, so that's why it confused me more. So the native who walked in the room was Tanane, and he introduces himself. Um, and he meets everyone there. And he also tells them that he can't really trust their word because he doesn't know them, and that Zales told him that the Teal'c has a demon in him, and he is like, "Well, I can't trust you," and they're like, "We're just here to find our friends." He's like, "Then why did you bring weapons?" And he's like, "Self-defense," and they're like, and he's like, "Oh, okay," and they're like, "Can we go?" And he's like, "Yeah."
I was like, okay, that was a very quick turnaround.
And well, and he's like, they're like, "Well, where are our friends?" He's like, "Oh, they're with the spirits." And he's like,
They're dead?
They were like, wait, they're dead? He goes, no, they're with the spirits. He's like,
That usually means dead.
yeah. He's like, I don't know which spirit has them. It could be Zales. Could be Takaya. I don't know. Somebody has them.
It's very
And
comforting.
and so they're like, okay, well, are we free to go? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, can we have our weapons back? He's like, okay.
I was like, what is happening right now?
I love
I was like, is this a
Tanane.
trap? I was like, he's so friendly.
He's so friendly. And like at first you're like, it's a trap, and then you're like, no, it's definitely not a trap. And then you're like, no, it's a trap. And then you're like, no. Like genuinely, he's just like,
But
that is
also,
who he
like,
is.
how did their people survive if, like, this is how friendly they are to people? Like, not everyone's as good as SG1.
Well, but here's the thing. Time to get up on the soapbox again. Um, isn't that kind of what happened anyway? Like the Native Americans in a lot of, not all, like there were warring tribes, there were
Of
warriors,
course,
there
of
were
course.
people, there were wars within tribes, but the Native Americans kind of just accepted people, and then the white men came with weapons and said, "Oh, you want to give us this gift? Ours now, ha ha ha." And that's kind of how we became America.
That is fair. Unfortunately,
So,
I cannot.
so that in fact does answer how he would have survived.
He wouldn't.
No. Yeah.
Yes. Got it. Got it.
um, again, this episode is incredibly accurate in good
Unfortunately.
and in good and bad ways.
Right.
So then Tanane is like, yeah, like they were like, how did this even happen? Like, what's going, can you give us some backstory? And he's like, well, we were returning from our winter camp and we saw your friends taking stuff from the mountain. And so Zales told us to shoot an arrow through the circle of standing water and warn you, but I guess you didn't take the warning. And
She's like, no, we took the warning.
we
But we
we took the warning, but
our
we're
friends.
not going to leave our friends. And he's like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right. Right.
Which
No discussion about anything.
no,
Let's
and
get it. Let's get it.
and Teal'c very much of Courtney's mindset is like something is wrong. I do not trust this man. This has got to be not real. Um,
Me and Tilk
so
being respectful.
so he's like, well, I'm gonna take you guys to Zales and see if he'll give you your friends back. And so they're walking, and Daniel, in his, fanboyness, is really excited for like a Native American ritual to summon the spirits. And then they get to the woods, and Tanane just goes, Zales, Takaya. And Daniel's like, aren't you gonna do something? He goes, oh, my grandfather did things like that, but Zales just told me one time, just call my name. So now I just call his name. And I was like, Tanane is my favorite character on the entire show
I love her
ever.
so much. So
Um, and so then a wolf appears, and Tanane's talking to her, and he's like, "Oh, Takaya, you look so beautiful today." And he's like, "Sam, compliments always work. Like you should talk to her." And Sam is like, "Hello." And then Sam, because Sam is a scientist at the end of the day, literally is like, "I can't. It's a wolf. I can't talk to it. Like I don't."
but again, out of all of the things they've seen, she literally had Jolinar living inside of her with all these
Okay,
girls and a wolf. It's crazy to think that a wolf
here's
has a spirit.
here's the thing that bothers me even more about it. Remember in season one,
She's
not the
religious.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
In season one, she's the only one in the whole team who believes in God. So you're going to
Right.
tell me that the only one here who believes in God can't believe in a spirit?
Right.
I'm confused.
Yes.
Um, Tanane is also confused because she's like, I can't, I see a wolf. That's all I see. And he's like, yeah, but you can't see the wind, but you still know it's there. You feel it. You see its effect on trees. Like, you know it exists. You still talk to the wind. Like, that's what a spirit is. And then a raven caws. I was like, yes, because you know how I feel about birds.
I thought about it.
I know. So then Daniel recognizes that the raven is Zales because he knows the culture.
Mhm.
And he like starts talking to the raven and he's like, I'd like to apologize for any misunderstanding. Like, we'd like you to release SG-11. And then he's like, oh, I think I hear him saying yes. And Teal'c's like, I heard it too. And Tanane's like, Sam, is that what you heard? And she's like, I think I heard something different, being a sarcastic like jerk. Because she's like, I just heard a freaking bird. And Tanane's like, oh, good, me too. I heard him say that he'll think about it. That's what you heard, right, Sam? And she's like, yeah, that's what I heard.
Uh, no, Sam.
Yeah. So he's like, well, why don't you guys look around and we'll like go for a walk while Zales makes up his mind. And then they're walking and the bird lands in front of them again. And he's like, oh, well, that was fast. And Sam is just about to lose her mind at this point. She is like so baffled. But I will say, could you imagine if Jack had been in charge still?
Oh my gosh. He would have lost his mind.
Jack would
He would
have
have shot
said,
the animals or something crazy. Like he would have
Jack
just
would have
gone
Jack
off.
would have said something so offensive and
Yeah.
so stupid.
Mhm.
Like, but so I'm glad he wasn't there because Jack, the things that he says about the Native Americans in the beginning and at the end are like so good that like I'm glad that they didn't ruin it by
Right.
having him on this mission. Because if Jack wasn't a sarcastic asshole, we wouldn't believe it was Jack. But if
Exactly.
Jack was then super in defense of the Native Americans and like pro the Native Americans, but then said shitty things to the spirits, like
Mhm.
it would be harder to believe him. So like I think it was the best choice to not
I
have
think
him
so
on
too.
this mission.
It was good. I mean, if we're gonna do the whole like suspending disbelief and whatnot, like it was good to have Sam there because she, while didn't believe everything, she's at least respectful enough to like
Hmm.
let it play through, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And she'll listen to Daniel better than Jack will.
Yes. Yes.
So um Tanane is like, oh, Zels and Takaya have granted your request. So Takaya wanders into the fog and SG-11 comes out dazed and confused. And Tanane asks Sam how it feels to see the wind. I was like, I loved that line.
I did too. That was one of my favorites. I was like,
Um,
oh.
and so then Captain Connor like has no memory of anything that has happened in the last 2 days. And he's like, I think we were drugged. Um,
But I
and
already like him better than Colonel Makepeace.
absolutely. Um, and then apparently Tanane had come to them and asked them not to use any blasting on the mountain.
Mhm.
Um, and they did anyway. And that's when they were like disappeared. And our Captain Cooper was like, well, the problem is that the charges were already hot. We'd already set them. We weren't like trying to disrespect him, but like we had to let those ones detonate first.
Right.
And then we could have that conversation because we had already done it. And Sam was like, okay, well, Tanani, I'm gonna have a conversation with you that Captain Connor should have had way earlier. Um, and he says, okay, but you can't have it with me. You'll have to talk to my village elders.
Right.
So the elders of the village say that they can't let SG mine because their mining is destructive, and wasteful, and it has upset the spirits.
Mhm.
So I think we missed where we did. We skipped the part where Daniel asks Tanane how they get their trinium, right?
Was that before now?
I thought it was.
I thought it was whenever they were back at the base at SGC when he asked him. But
I thought it was,
I
I thought it
watched.
was while they were walking in the woods at some point. I don't remember. Maybe, well, maybe. Um, but so Sam like tries to negotiate and she says that there are less destructive ways of mining and that like they would love to show them. And so the elders agree to let Tanane go back to Stargate Command with them. And like travel with them, but Zales says that it's too dangerous And Tanane, bless his soul, is just like, no, it's not dangerous. I'll go.
Yeah.
No problem. And
So trusting.
so Tanane comes back with them, and Hammond takes them. No, they must have this conversation before because Sam is explaining it to Jack when they get there.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was the
So,
conversation I was thinking of.
yes. So basically, Tanane explains to them that they like asked the spirits for the key, which is what they call the trinium, and the mountain releases it into the river and the river purifies it, and then they just take what's in the river. So basically it's an ore, and they don't take the raw ore, they take the purified ore that's been like deposited through and like through
Like
the
refined
water and
form.
refined through the water and through like time, and that's why it's stronger, which makes it a better metal, but it also means that they can only get small amounts at a time, which of course doesn't work for Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
Um, so Tanane comes back with them. He does a medical exam. And the only reason that this medical exam is important is because they examine everyone who comes back.
Yeah.
And somehow miss
Everything.
everything. So then they show Tanane their other mining methods on video, and he says that like he still can't say yes because it's still too wasteful and too destructive. And that they need to just be grateful with what the spirits give them. And so the rest of the team goes to have a conversation, and they're like, Daniel, while we're having this conversation, why don't you like take Tanani to see the rest of the facility? And Daniel tells him that he thinks that his ancestors are from Earth, and he wants to show him more information in the archives about the Salish people. And Tanane is like so excited about that. It's so cute. He's like, really, from here? And so he goes to learn about his ancestors, and we find out that the NID, of course, it's the NID. So the NID is the government agency that Senator Kinsey always gets his fucking hands in. Yeah. And so anytime something is coming to General Hammond from the NID, just assume Senator Kinsey is the one who said it because it's bullshit.
We hate him.
Yeah. So the NID has plans to sneak back while the Salish peoples are at their winter camp and not near the mountain, and steal the trinium every time that they're like migrated. And Sam and Cooper are both like, please God, no.
Right. It was like we're already starting off on the wrong foot with Tanani. Like we should be
Right.
more
And like
diplomatic relation building.
and Jack's like, that worked so fucking well for us last time.
Right.
And General Hammond is like, I don't agree with it, but it might be necessary. We have to be prepared if the Goa'uld ever come back like this. We can't let military disadvantage happen again because we're being nice to people, which is a very black and white way to think about things.
It is.
And Jack is so angry that history is going to repeat itself and that we're just going to walk all over these Native Americans who escaped long enough ago to not have been walked over by the government the first time.
And who are like, they're trying to help them. It's not like they're like, nope, you can't have anything. They're just like, oh, yeah.
They're like, we will share with you, but like, this is how much we have.
Right. Right.
So then he dismisses the meeting and everybody's angry. And Captain Cooper goes to his office and just like smacks his arms together, and General Hammond fucking disappears.
Yep. I was like, what is happening?
And he goes to the rest of the SG-11 team, and he was like, it's time to show the Earthlings the true power of the spirits. So obviously it's not actually Cooper.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's not SG-11. Great.
No. So I wrote possessed SG-11 goes to the lab and evaporates everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jack sees them like evaporating people as they're walking in the hallway. So he alerts to the base that the code 9 is not a drill.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Jack grabs Sam and Teal'c and fills them in on the weirdness that he just saw. And they go back to the lab where the code originated. And Dr. Warner is there. And he's like, we need to find Tanane. He came in and he started making everyone disappear. And I stayed behind and I pressed the button and we have to find Tanane. And they're like, what about SG-11? And he said, no, we need to find Tanane. The others are meaningless. That
Right.
was a big fat clue that doesn't make any sense.
Big red
Plus,
flag.
we as the viewer had already seen Dr. Warner be disappeared. So,
Right, right.
I wrote that's an odd choice of words.
Yeah.
So Jack also immediately is like not correct. So he's like, "Where's Dr. Warner?" And he's like, right, what? I'm right here." And they start arguing, and the spirit in Dr. Warner says that if they don't take him to Tanane, they'll never return their friends. And he's like, we don't do well with being threatened. And he's like, neither do we. And Dr. Warner alien tries to evaporate SG-1, and Teal'c Zat guns him,
Yeah.
which
Like,
is aggressive, but we also know that one shot of the Zat gun doesn't kill anyone.
it doesn't really do anything. It just
It
makes you.
just right. I also wonder like what's the reset time on that? Like if you get Zat gunned once and you're in shock, it's bad. If you get Zat gunned twice, you die. But like if you get Zat gunned once and then like an hour later get Zat gunned, do you just get shocked again?
Right.
If you get Zat gunned once and then like 2 days later, you would just get shocked again, right? Like there's got to be a reset time on
Surely.
that.
Surely.
Um, But once the Zat gun hits him, it reveals the true form of the spirit, which is one of the fucking weirdest looking aliens I've ever seen.
So, like, those look like gills, but they seem
Yeah.
to be fine out of water. So, like,
Yeah, no, they were for sure breathing air. They were just
right.
weird. They're air gills. I don't fucking know.
Air gills?
Yeah. I
Sure.
don't. Yeah,
Sure.
something
That's a
something.
thing.
It's not. But sci-fi, Um so then Takaya and another spirit are there and they're looking for Tanane, and Takaya says that she can't feel her connection with Zell's anymore. So that if the other spirits also lose contact with her, they have to destroy the whole place. This whole conversation happens with Daniel watching it.
Yes.
And so he's like trying to distract Tanane in a storage room.
Yeah.
And he's like, so yeah, like this is a storage room. This is where we store things. And Tanane, sweet Tanane just goes, can I go home now?
Yeah. Right.
And Daniel's like, okay, I'm not gonna continue to lie to you. We have a problem. We need to find Jack. So he takes Tanane to Jack, in the lab, and shows him Zales and explains aliens. And Tanane is just like, if it was Zales, he would answer when we talk to him. So it's not. Like, I don't believe you. um, um, so then SG-1 is trying to figure out how to save the base. Like when technically, oh no. So Tanane, they're like, you have to understand, like, this is an alien, this is Zell's real form. They're trying to take over this base, they're trying to like kill everyone here. Like, they're not a good guy. And Tanane's like, no, he is a good guy. If he's trying to hurt you, it's because you threatened to hurt me and my people.
Right.
But you wouldn't do that. So like, so then Jack's like, well, how do we fix this
Yes.
when we fucked up?
Right. He's like, whoops, we did threaten their people.
Correct. Well, he was like technically in the wrong here. How do I then fix it? So Daniel, they basically send Daniel to talk or like to go back and negotiate with the elders or the spirits or something. And he gets to the gate room and Takai is there and he's talking to her and he's like, we need to be able to figure something out. Like, just, I will take you to Tanane if you promise to give me a chance to talk. So she agrees. And they go to um they Daniel brings all of the aliens down to the infirmary and they zap Sam and Tanane away, mostly because Sam's in the way.
Right.
And Tanane they're zapping away to save him. And then they heal Zell's and he tells and then they all start to leave and everything and he tells Takaya to destroy the base. And Daniel's like, but you promised to listen. And he was like, blah, 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 like, I give you my word. And he's like, your word means nothing. Like, these are the
Yeah.
things that you tried to do. And Takaya's like, okay, but if I don't listen to him, then my word also means nothing because I made a
Mhm.
promise. And if that's the standard we're going to hold him to, I'm not going to be that person. We don't have to agree. We don't have to be on their side, but we do have to listen. And Zelda's like, okay, so hear what they have to say. Um, Jack basically says the easiest way for you, he was like, there is a way for you to do this where, because he was like, I give you my word. And he was like, even if I believed you, what about your superiors? Like, you're not in church.
Right,
And
right.
he's like, okay, well, then I will tell you what you can do to make sure that even if my superiors go against it, it'll never work. And they agree. And he tells them to close their Stargate so that no one can get there without them like letting them in.
Right.
And they agree to do that. And they're like, um, we don't need space travel. That's fine. Like, we'll shut the gate, but we're still angry because, like, um, even if we close the gate, our lives are over because we had this harmony with the Salish people by taking the form of their spirits, and you've tried to ruin that harmony and cause them to not trust us by everything that you said to Tanane. And so everything is broken.
Right.
And Jack's like, honestly, why don't you just trust them? And he's like taking a different form and showing them not who you are because you want them to not be afraid of you is not any different than what the Goa'uld are doing.
Right.
And if you just trusted them, they might still want to work with you. Like, and he's like, even on Earth now, the what's left of the Salish people still respect the planet and the Earth and nature so much
Yep.
that I don't believe that they won't trust you. So they bring Tanane back to have this conversation. And they introduce Tanane to Zales and Takaya for real. And they're like, we took these forms of the spirits and the names that your ancestors have passed on us to honor you and honor them. But we can take many forms and we can be whatever you want us to look like. And Tanani's like, why do you care what I want you to look like? You have been good to us. You have helped protect us. You are the spirits. Like, take whatever form makes you happy. And they're like, we would be happiest like to be ourselves and to look like this. And Tanani's just like, cool, let's do it. Let's go home.
Oh,
And he's just ready to go home and he's happy. And then Jack's like, what about our friends? And they're like, your friends are right here, dude. And they just turn around and everybody's there in the room.
everyone's there. Oh,
And it is a beautiful, happy ending.
it was. It was.
Um, the the alien race. I have my trivia now. The alien race that they show here I'm not going to read this whole spoiler or this whole trivia because it's spoilers about things that we don't know about in the show yet. But their names are called the Narida.
Narida.
Mm-hmm.
Can you spell that for me?
Raida.
Okay.
And then the spirit name, Takaya, was taken from the Saliel Waututh word, Takaya, which means wolf, and the Saliel Waututh territory. They're one of the Salish people, and their territory is the city of where the city of Vancouver is, which is where SG1 is filmed.
Right.
So
I love it. I love it.
yes. So, who do you want to punch?
The U.S. government. All of them.
All of them, the whole government.
The whole thing.
I would like to punch General Hammond for choosing this moment to actually care about what the government is saying because he picks and chooses his battles.
Yes.
And this was a battle he should not have chosen.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Who is your MVP? The problem is, I know it's going to be Tanane, which means I have to pick someone else, even though Tanane is perfect. I think I'm going to pick Jack.
Okay.
Because Jack just was righteously indignant on behalf of the Native American people
Yes.
for the whole episode. And
Absolutely.
I am so here for it.
Samesies.
So yeah, that is Stargate. That is our first ever in our whole podcast of Death and Aliens episode that I felt like actually was legitimately respectful to the culture they were trying to. Because in Hemlock Grove, there was a lot of stuff that was not great in terms of how they were treating the Romani people. Pole Shack was just all of the cultural appropriation. To be fair, it's the 70s, so like they didn't have that word then. That's what they were doing.
Right.
And then Dead Like Me, it didn't have a lot, but it did have some weird
Some weird stuff, but it wasn't really it just didn't have a lot of other culture stuff. Like
no, it didn't have a lot of other culture stuff. And the stuff that it did was more like kitschy than like actually offensive.
Right.
But yeah, so and I guess Bates really doesn't really use other cultures. No. So in the 5 shows that we have reviewed, this is the first one that it was like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
So refreshing. Yeah. But if you I hate when I don't know how to close it. Like I'm like I like when I have like a great like thought-provoking question. Oh, I know what my thought-provoking question for the end of the episode is. What should Teal's encyclopedia include? What do you want to know? What do you want to discover from Teal's perspective?
Yes, I love it.
Please, to those of you who are listening to this podcast, like Brianna and Daniel. And let's see who
that was.
It was very pointed. He doesn't even he listens to it. He doesn't watch it, so he is not even seeing my face.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how caught up he is. I don't know when he's going to listen to this episode. But Doug, Sadiq, sorry. I don't know him. I apologize. People who I know are listening to this episode. Courtney's aunts. Actually, just give us questions, please. Interact with us. We like to talk to people other than each other.
I love to talk to people. That's all I've talked about all week is how much I love client relations and talking to people. So
send us your suggestions for Teal's encyclopedia, and you can do that by emailing us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can do that on our Facebook or our Instagram or our Twitter, or on Reddit. We have an entire Reddit thread that is just for our podcast that no one ever talks to us on. But you can
We don't
find
understand Reddit enough yet.
I know. Literally, Reddit has become a very important part of my life on a day-to-day basis, but that's because I joined a leopard gecko subreddit where I learned more things about how to take care of my pet. Um, so I also get mad at people on it on a daily basis, but I guess that's what Reddit's for.
I think so.
But so Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter. Do we have any other social media? I don't think so.
There's like a community board on Spotify that I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure that exists too. So look at all of those ways that you can talk to us at Death and Aliens.
YouTube, you can.
Oh yeah, YouTube comments. YouTube comments. For sure. Look at that's 7 different ways that you can talk to us, not including the fact that all of those people I just mentioned have at least mine or Courtney's phone number.
Yes.
So
correct.
But the people who don't have our phone numbers, who we're not deliberately yelling at in this moment, can also follow me on all of the social media at EMKAY_superstar. And I am on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit. I don't know if there's other social media. I had that like all those weird like ask me questions ones. Oh, I have a Tumblr. Like just anywhere. I exist. Find me.
I don't know a lot about social media, but I am there. And you can also find me at CECloud13. I do not know what social media I have. If you search it, it's me. I'm the only one that handle. So,
and we will see you next week or on Thursday for a thrilling episode of Thriller Thursday.
Thrilling.
And that thrilling episode of Thriller Thursday will come out the day before Courtney's.
The day I leave.
Very exciting.
2 days before
birthday. Or 2 days. Yes, because your birthday's on Saturday. Yes. So, we will see you then.
See ya.
Bye.